Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Hilaal Live. My name is Faraz, but I would like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us. I'll be opening up proceedings for today. As the weekend commenced, there was something else that also commenced. The continuous bombing from the Israeli Air Force. Mothers hiding their children, fathers trying to find a way to protect their own kids. Over 1,000 people continue to be stuck in the rubble. That is according to the Palestinian Civil Organization. It is by no means an exaggeration when we say a genocide is currently on the go in Gaza. Just last year, or earlier this year actually, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, showed a map and Gaza and the West Bank was not there. So it's no coincidence that when we look at this is something that was definitely in the making. But what is positive is that across the world, there have been pro-Palestine protests that have been happening, calling for the expulsion of Israel from all security councils within the United Nations, but also for them to be sanctioned and for them to be boycotted. One of those gentlemen that were in one of the biggest pro-Palestine marches that happened this weekend in the United Kingdom. I'd like to welcome Umar Mofeed. He is a Palestinian, but living currently in the United Kingdom. Umar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah so much for joining us here.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for inviting me for this program. It's important for us, although it's been very difficult time for us to appear in these programs, to tell our people in South Africa that you have won in your struggle and we still want your support so we can win in our struggle. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. And of course, please do remember the family of Umar in your du'as and your prayers. He lost his family in Gaza this weekend. So we make dua, Umar, that the marhum be granted Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah. I mean, they have died as shaheeds. So it's almost guaranteed that they are Jannatis without any doubt.
Yeah, if you allow me to say,
yes,
so
please, no
I have lost 14 of my family member. I lost my cousin. She was a high court judge. She was 75 years old. Her husband, he was also a judge. He was 77 years old. They lost their son, Muhammad, who was a lawyer, who filed a case in the International Criminal Court against Israel about the siege in Gaza, and their son, Firas, who was an engineer. Firas has 4 sons and daughters, and Muhammad have 6 sons and daughters. So they were all in their family house. Israel know this is these civilian people's house, and they decided to target this house. That was on Saturday, which is 14th of October 2023 at 10 o'clock in the evening, while they were preparing to sleep, although no one sleep during the war.
Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Umar, our thoughts and our du'as are with you. I think there's nothing more that can be said but that. The thoughts and du'as are with you. But when we look at in terms of maybe something that can be taken out of this is that earlier on, a very senior politician within Spain, and this would be seen as quite ironic that Spain would step up to the plate. They've called for Israel to be taken to the International Criminal Court. When you have Spain, such a strong European power, and a politician calling from that, I mean, that sends a strong message, doesn't it, Umar?
Yeah, I mean, the Palestinian struggle did not start in 2023. The Palestinian struggle did not start when the siege has put in Gaza in 2006 or 2007. The Palestinian struggle did not start in the Second Intifada in 2000. The Palestinian struggle did not start in the first Intifada in 1987. The Palestinian struggle did not start in the Naksa when Israel occupied Gaza and the West Bank in the 1967. The Palestinian struggle did not start in 1948 when Israel occupied 80% of the Palestinian land. The Palestinian struggle started way before that, when the Zionist group have planned to occupy Palestine, to take the Palestine from the Palestinian people with the support of the Western countries. We know what happens in Balfour Declaration. Before the Balfour Declaration, when Britain was under the British control, they have helped tens of thousands of the Zionist refugees to come to Palestine. The British government have decided to give Palestine to the Zionist group, and this is the Palestinian struggle. Now, more than 7 million Palestinian, more than 50% of the Palestinian people are refugees living in Palestine, like refugees, as 80% of the Gazan people are refugees or living outside Palestine. We have people who lives in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Egypt, in other Arab countries, or they live outside in the international world. It's impossible to keep these people suffering without having the right to return to their homes, or to ignore them until we have seen the Israelis are raising their voices. We need to show that the Palestinian have a voice, they are human, and they deserve to live in a dignified life.
Umar, though the West, including Israel, are arguing that Hamas needs to surrender. If they surrender, then we'll stop the bombing and the shelling and the ground offensive that Israel are planning on doing. But if we know of the Palestinians, especially those in Gaza, and according to international law, Palestinians have the right to defend themselves. And why is it so hard for people to maybe, especially in the West, especially those ignorant in understanding, why is it so hard for them to understand that they have to have this resistance, because without the resistance, they are being made to lambs, to slaughter, to the lions that are coming. And those lions are, of course, none other than the IDF.
So Israel occupied Palestine in 1948. Hamas was founded in 1987. We're talking about more than 50 or 45 years. Yeah. So, I mean, to say the reason for the Israeli occupation is a group which was founded 40 years after Israel was started its occupation, that is nonsense. So the Palestinians have been resisting this occupation since day one. Even before, we know the biggest strike in 1936, where all Palestine were in general strike, and they were against the Zionist occupation to Palestine. So what I'm trying to say that the Palestinian struggle is continuous, and Israel doesn't need an excuse. And we have seen yesterday the Israeli president, who called himself a left-wing liberal person, he was saying no person in Gaza is civilian. So he says all the Gazans as a nation are responsible, and they will pay a price to Israel. And this is, by international law, is a criminal record, a criminal act, and this has to be ended. But the problem, they are receiving the support from the Western countries, and this is sad.
Umar, I want to bring to, obviously, within Palestine and its external politics. When I speak to many Palestinians, and I don't know whether you share the same sentiment, they feel that maybe there is a lack of trust within Fatah, which of course controls West Bank and Ramallah, and that, of course, of its current president, Mahmoud Abbas, and his cabinet. And then there are many, of course, within Gaza who have such a strong affiliation with Hamas. With a number of your countrymen and countrywomen who you speak to, do they feel that same sense, or is there a different feeling towards the government of Mahmoud Abbas and that of Hamas, who, of course, are the resistant movement?
I mean, Palestinians are different. but the Palestinians are united to stand against the occupation. So the Palestinians want to see Jerusalem free, they want to see their lands free, they want to see the refugees are returning to their homes, they want to return. So my grandmother was in Java, which is now Tel Aviv, want to return to her hometown. And this is what the Palestinian want. And regarding what forms or tools or names, this does not matter. Like, everyone choose the name they want to work under, but the Palestinians want to have justice. They want to see this apartheid occupation, and it's very simple. If there is no justice, there will be no peace.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Omar Mofeed. He's a Palestinian activist based in the United Kingdom. Do stay tuned to Hilaal Live. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. I'm still in conversation with Omar Mofeed, a Palestinian activist based in the United Kingdom. Umar, this weekend, you're part of easily what I would call the largest pro-Palestine march that occurred. Talk to us about it, because I watched it on Sky News through our cables here in South Africa. Of course, their narrative was pushed very different, but the power of the people, that is something different, isn't it? And it just wasn't Muslims. It was non-Muslims also, especially Jewish people that want a liberated Palestine. Talk to us about it, because it really looked like something special, didn't it?
Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, we had a mixed of feeling. Like, when we think of our people dying, more than 2,700 people have been killed. We have more than 1,000 people under the demolished houses, and their bodies has not been taken. So it's a very sad timing. But when we have seen tens or hundreds of thousands of people, the estimate number, people are saying 250,000 people, some people are saying 150,000 people. We have seen people are standing here in London and saying that this has to stop, that the social media is showing the truth, because we have seen the mainstream media are not covering the truth, but people have seen the truth. So it was really important for the Palestinian to see these people standing in solidarity, because the mainstream media was not standing in the favor of the Palestinian, and it was not neutral. It was something against the Palestinian. So it was really important to see, and the demonstration was full of young people, the new generation who doesn't follow the mainstream media, and these people were from different backgrounds. Some of them are Muslims, Christian, Jews, Hindus, people with no beliefs. Everyone was standing there, and it was really surprising to see the number. And regarding the messages that people were sending, they were saying the UK has to stop supporting this occupation, to stop sending the arms to Israel, and the UK has to be standing and taking its legal responsibility. Because when Britain has done the Balfour Declaration, it says we will create a state in Palestine, in the Palestinian land, but we need this not to impact the life of the non-Jewish people in Palestine, which has never happened. So what I'm trying to say, it's very important to see people in these capitals. We have seen them in lots of Middle Eastern countries, African countries, European countries, in the in the US, in Canada, in Australia, and many places. So this make people in Palestine feel that they were not forgotten, and people are seeing the truth, although the mainstream media is not covering them.
Umar, there's a famous saying, now I was blind, but now I can see. Ignorance is something that I think you can excuse some people, because they need a bit of awakening up, and awakening up can happen by just opening their eyes and seeing it. The perception, because I want to talk in South Africa, a lot of the people, a lot of them, even many of my white compatriots who are beneficiaries of apartheid, are really standing up to say Palestine needs to be liberated. Do you feel the perception is changing the same within the United Kingdom? That it's not just Muslims and Arabs or Indians like myself, or who are, of course, Muslim, but different nationalities are waking up and saying what Israel is doing goes even beyond the word genocide.
Yeah, definitely. So you are moving me to the next level, which is just before this, war in Gaza. So we have seen something called the Gov Polling, Institute, which check the people in the UK behavior and how they look toward the political parties. So they ask them, what is your sympathy? Do you show sympathy to the Palestinian, to the Israelis, or you don't show any sympathy to any party? Most of the people, more than 60%, have said they have sympathy with the Palestinian. So we are seeing a change of the public opinion to stand with the victims of this occupation, and the British government have done lots of things to stop this. We have seen the British police, the Metropolitan Police, are putting lots of restrictions to the protests in London. And we have seen the British government is putting laws to protect Israel and to make it the only country in the world that no one can boycott or make sanctions. And as we know, the South African apartheid regime was supported by the British government, Thatcher government was supporting the apartheid, and the British people have shown their red card to the apartheid and to Margaret Thatcher, and they showed the apartheid that it has to end. And we have seen Nelson Mandela is the honorary president of many student councils in the UK, or many councils. So I mean, it's the history is repeating itself, and we can see a change from the public opinions, but the government is still standing away from the people's opinion.
Umar, I want to bring in a article I read last week, and obviously you'll be able to, correct me if I'm wrong about this, about the Home Secretary of the United Kingdom saying that they are going to ban any flags of Palestine. And I asked myself, well, the United Kingdom's a democracy, claims to be one of the biggest democracies within the world. I mean, that would be a shame, won't it, that protesting against injustice, protesting against what is right now an ethnic cleansing, and all of a sudden you just want to take away the flag that represents the people who are suffering this. I mean, this would be a shame, wouldn't it?
Of course, yeah, of course. I mean, what happens is the Home Office, which is the Suhail government, have sent a letter to all officers, police officers, and head of police stations that if someone raise Palestinian flag in certain occasions, they need to be arrested, and that was meant to have a chilling effect to scare the people to go out in the protest. But what was the reaction? People went more in a number that we never seen in London, holding the Palestinian flag, putting the Palestinian flag on their cars. But in the same time, we have seen lots of pro-Palestine, like caricatures, drawers, have been lost their jobs because they showed solidarity, artworks with Palestine. We have seen doctors losing their jobs because they stand with Palestine. So it's something that need to be worked on, the freedom of expression, the anti-Palestinian behavior from the officials in the UK, and these stuff need to be changed.
Umar, our Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. Naledi Pandor, I'm sure you've heard about her.
Yeah, of
I
course.
mean,
She's well known in Palestine,
yes,
and she
and
have
she's
a
loved in
huge
Palestine
respect.
also.
Sorry?
She's also much loved in
Yeah,
Palestine also.
yeah.
She said, I mean, she came out strongly during a diplomatic conference that happened this weekend, saying something has to be done, and that the oppression of the Palestinian people has to stop. There has to be a change, and the world leaders need to make that change. As a Palestinian, listening to somebody who, of course, experienced apartheid herself, that must be bringing warmth to your heart, doesn't it?
Of course, of course. Like everyone in Palestine, they listen to this. they understand what she's saying and they respect it. Because as you mentioned, she's an official person who have suffered the apartheid. She understands what she talks. So when she talk about the Palestinian struggle, the Palestinian have different feeling that we have the support from the people who are victims of this kind of well-established institute. Because Black South African have suffered, as I mentioned, like, the British government was a big support of the apartheid regime. So what we can say that this is something I mean, South Africa is one of the very few countries which show its solidarity to the Palestinian every day, and they pay a price. So we have seen lots of sanctions, not like direct sanctions, but lots of restrictions to the South African people and officials because they stand with Palestine. So in Palestine, of course, this people while they are in the killing, they wait to see what the South Africa people have said, what the Moroccan people have said, what the Arab people have said, what the British people have said, what the American, what the African, what the people in Nigeria, in everywhere. So they care about what people in India, what people in China have said, and they care about this very much.
Umar, to wrap up this conversation, whenever people ask me personally, like, what is your thoughts on what's happening? Sometimes I have no words because it's really difficult to describe it. You yourself, you've just lost so much of your family within Gaza. And my question to you, because when I see the children of Gaza, they're still filled with hope because they believe there's such a bigger purpose to everything that is happening. Because they're not afraid of death. They know what's about to happen. Umar, hope. I mean, that's something that Palestinian peoples hold onto, but they hold onto it with so much, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, I've been there 6 months ago. I was in Gaza. You would be surprised to see the young generation, how they have what's so-called co-working places where you have a flat and you put 15 desks and people are working on these desks. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is people are building their new life. They are working very hard, and they showed that they deserve to be treated and to have justice. So the word hope is a generic word, but we can feel it there, and I'm sure next day after this will end, you will see the amazing talented people having their desks again, because most of the building has been bombed out. So they will have new desks, they will start working, they will connect their internet and start working again. So I believe they will continue being amazing with this hope.
Umar, we say shukran to you so much for making the time for us. You and your family in our du'as, in our thoughts, and obviously everyone else in Gaza. And we say jazakallah to you for really joining us and making the time for us here on Hilaal Live.
Yeah, thank you. Please keep us in your dua, and we can, inshallah, soon meet where this has ended and we see the people, returning to their, life and to be shining, inshallah.
Inshallah. I mean, I take this. Let's meet in Masjid al-Aqsa in a liberated Palestine. That would even be better, inshallah. Omar Mofeed, he's a Palestinian activist based in the United Kingdom. As you go home today, myself included, appreciate the luxuries that you have in life. Appreciate the human rights that have been given to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because so many of the people of Palestine right now have been denied that because of oppression and fascism. After the break, I'll have your latest in news. To stay tuned to Hilaal TV.